raced at 200 very often, Raylene. Just the American trials this year and now here.
She hasn't raced too many 400s either, but she's been brilliant over those. She's just an enormous talent. Telling someone in the audience to be quiet there.
So Jones in 5. That's 4 from the left, and Melinda Gainsford-Taylor 3 from the right, down low.
Pintasevich is worth watching in lane 6. She's very tight, and I don't think she's running that well at all, but quite a comparison in style.
Away, Jones out well, Gainsford-Taylor reasonably away, and Koo's a fast starter, so Gainsford-Taylor's got something to look at. Pintasevich joined by Jones. Melinda's about 4th into the straight. A bit of work to do, but she had a good bend. Jones clearly in front. Gainsford-Taylor's up for second. Good running here. Pintasevich and Koo, and Melinda's going to come away with a very good result. Marion just in front. Melinda's going to pip her, baby, just for the record. 22.50. Marion easing up. And behind them, Pintasevich and Nku. Marion may have allowed Melinda to get her right on the line. It'd be lovely if she did, as I said, just for the record books. Nearly a dead heat. And she's got her. 22.49 the Aussie and 22.50 Marion.
That's excellent running for Melinda. Good on her. She's stepped it up again from this morning.
And Pat, that's a nice scalp to have. Doesn't matter how you get it sometimes. 22.49's a fast time.
22.49, you had a smile on your face before the race. I bet you've got a smile on your face now, too.
Yeah, I'm really pleased with that. Just to get out and get through the next round.
Ran a great bend again and finished it off.
Yeah, it's a nice change to finish it off, actually. I know Marion's got a long jump next, so... But still, it's just great to get out there and enjoy myself. And now I'm getting ready for tomorrow night.
Anytime you can say you've got Marion Jones as a scalp, though, in any race, it's not too bad.
Oh, I'm not getting carried away with that. She was just cooling down, but hey, I'm having a ball, Pat. It's great.
Well, you're making sure that we're all having a ball here too. You're keeping us all entertained. Best of luck tomorrow night. We'll see you in the semi.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
All right, Mel, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you.
Thank you, Hayden. Thanks for having me.
So our listeners would have heard a little bit of an intro to your second round of the 200-meter sprint at the Sydney 2000 Olympics, where you beat Marion Jones. She eased up a little bit at the start, but what an incredible time in your life.
Look, it really was. And it's funny, when I do my talks or presentations, I show that vision. And as I say, I said it was in the second round of the 200 meters, not the final. But it was a pretty magical moment, because actually being, I was lucky it was my third Olympics, but to actually have an Olympics in your own city was pretty incredible. And I remember that moment because there was like 110,000 people there, and like 100,000 of them seemed to be Australians. So they were so supportive. But I just remember coming off that bend, and you're right, Marion was slowing down, and I thought, should I try and get her? And I thought, why not? And I picked her on the line, which I think was a bit of a surprise to her as well. I laughed because Bruce McAvaney goes, I think she was slowing down. I was like, no kidding. But it was just afterwards, just the hype, and everyone got excited about it. And it was actually a lot of fun. It was a very memorable moment.
And I was think 4 years old at the time, so I can't truly appreciate, your seeing your athleticism and that. But I was actually at the Olympics there at the track. So I'm sure, you were doing the rounds then, but it feels like a long time.
Do you remember it?
I've got some photos from that Mum showed me with my cousins at the Olympics.
Nice.
But I can't. There's not much I can only relive it through the videos, and seeing that footage as we've discussed, it was awesome. Like just seeing you coming around the bend at that speed, and then pipping her right at the end. But that kind of leads me into what we're going to talk about next, which is, I want to explore a lot about your achievements throughout your career, which has been, there's a massive amount of awesome achievements. But also we want to talk about, as the saying goes, a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. And there's always a plethora of different challenges and hurdles that you've had to overcome in your career. And as we spoke about before we went on air today, one of those pillars of the Normalist podcast is lessons learnt through tough life experiences and sacrifices. And you've had to make a hell of a lot of different sacrifices and had to overcome a whole host of different barriers. How did this helped you overcome a lot of you overcame a lot of these barriers through a steely determination that you built from a young age. So we just talked briefly about Sydney Olympics in 2000. With Marion Jones, she was the first woman to win 5 track and field medals at a single Olympic Games, and at the time she was really the bee's knees of the female short distance track athletes, wasn't she?
Yeah, she definitely was. She was pretty incredible. She won the 100 meters by at least five meters. And I do even remember getting to the end of the Olympics because I did a lot of races myself. I ran a 100, a 200, did the rounds, 3 rounds of the 100, 4 rounds of the 200, the 4x1. Actually, unfortunately, I didn't get to run that really because the baton got dropped, which was devastating. But the 4x4, and I just remember being at the warm-up track, being exhausted and feeling tired. And I'm thinking, she's done all this, all this competitions, all that, plus long jump as well. And she looked as fresh as a daisy in comparison to me. So, yes. And now we know because she got caught for systematic doping. It's all come out now. And now that explains why she was probably able to handle that sort of work. But, she was pretty phenomenal. And you sometimes look back when you think of these athletes who make these choices of taking drugs and you're thinking, well, you won by 5 meters in the 100 meters. Maybe you could have just won by 200ths of a second. So, she was obviously a really talented athlete as well.
Yeah, and I don't want to focus too much on Marion's fall from grace, but I also do want to touch on, as you said, she later admitted to doping. But how that experience impacted you, less so, focusing on Marion, but kind of that experience for you, it must be hard, putting all that work and effort into your training, reaching the heights of an Olympic Games or your 3rd Olympic Games, and then finding out later that, one of your competitors has been taking performance enhancing drugs. Did that impact you in any way?
Well, I think one of the things is, she wasn't one of the first. I've competed over the years, and there have been athletes, even from a young age that I competed against that had been caught for drugs. And I think that's one of the things you realize as an athlete is that some people try to take shortcuts and try to cheat. And it can be really hard. It can be hard when it can be hard in the sense that people might end up getting that medal over you who have taken drugs, but unfortunately you can't control that. And then you have to make a decision very young to think, okay, well, I can't control what they can do. I can only control what I can do. And you've got to set your own goals with that. And, that decision had to be made for me for my first Olympics when I was 20 years old. You're not naive enough to think that everybody is playing by the rules. Unfortunately, that's life. People don't always play by the rules, but the thing is that you can, and you can put in that hard work and those sacrifices. And then when you do achieve them, then you can feel good about it because, you've done it the right way, you've done it the hard way. And I truly believe that, and I think, it just goes to show that it happened to Marion. Things will eventually catch up to you in one way or another. So in the end, I think it's best to be honest, work hard, do the best you can. And that's what's really important.
Almost cheating yourself, aren't you? When
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like, even if you're at, I always say this with kids sometimes, if they're, playing games or, they're going off earlier before the other kid, or if the kid across country wants to cut ahead to win, you're actually not doing yourself any favors by any means. So it's just by playing by the rules, I think, is really important. And it's funny because I coach kids now. Even with little things in games, I go, no, we don't do that. It's cheating. I think it's really important for them to realize that you should do the right thing, and that if you do the right thing and you reap the rewards afterwards, then it's just so much more satisfying.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is you were also voted in as the kind of the leader for the female cohort of Olympians at Sydney 2000, and you must have had a level of respect for her as well, and her athleticism, and looked up to her at certain times throughout your career. So having that encounter, I'm sure there were plenty of races where you were up against her, and it was looking back on things now, has it taught you a lot about, like you just spoke about how, you know, not taking shortcuts and how you're educating the next generation, but has it influenced, you know, your future, you know, your life moving forward, like in your teachings, not only to kids, but kind of that you've adopted yourself?
But look, I am a big believer on, you know, you reap what you sow, definitely. And I think that's what it's sort of shown with her. Mind you, you know, you travel around the world and you compete against athletes around the world. And she was actually one of the friendly ones, the nicer ones, I have to admit, as an athlete. But I think I think that's the pure example, to be honest with you, that it does catch up with you. And like at the time, I mean, you wouldn't remember because you were 4 years old, but her then boyfriend, CJ Hunter, had been caught for drugs at Sydney Olympics. And there was, you know, talk around everything, obviously, with Marion being his girlfriend. There was, you know, people were saying things. Obviously, it was never proven then, but I think in the end, if you really could be bothered enough to look into all the notes, etc., and the stories of what happened, it proved to be right. But you know, it's just, I think one of the things is now my role is as a coach, and I love coaching kids. And it's not just about giving them the right programming, it's about mentoring them, you know, helping them, teaching them from right from wrong. And, you know, that's the role that I really love to play as well. And, you know, you can tell stories like that. And I think someone told me the other day, Marion was actually, you know, going into schools and talking to kids in schools and about making good choices now. So I think that's a really good life lesson for everyone to learn.
Yeah, it's a bit sad looking back on it. I think the father of her first child and her ex-husband were both caught for doping in those games as well. So it's quite a
yeah, they did. Yeah, later on. Yeah, absolutely.